going to be talking with Suzanne Henneman from healingmessagesfromspirit.com. She is a shaman, a Reiki master mentor, a psychic medium, and let's get going.
Yeah, we're excited to have you today. So
I'm excited to be here.
yeah, thank you so much for joining us. So Suzanne, you are actually somebody who's really special to me because on my journey in learning psychic and mediumship, you showed me a kind of a different way to learn to do readings, to do psychic readings, and I really appreciate that. So that's why I was really happy to have you today on the podcast talking about psychic readings. So would you mind sharing with us how you got started?
Okay, well, it's interesting because, and I think you know, but I'm not like the typical, I don't have like a story, like, oh, I'm from generations of psychics and things like that. When I think back on it, my dad my lineage is Aztec Indian, Mexican from my father's side. So there's that. My dad went to powwows and did all that kind of stuff. But when he was little, he used to see spirits in his bedroom all the time. And back in the 30s, all the kids slept in one room. So everybody would huddle up with him and sleep with him because they were scared of the ghosts that he would see. So thinking back on it, I'm sure he had the gift. But myself, it was just an interest in metaphysical stuff. So tarot cards, and not that this really relates at all, but I'm like a huge like sci-fi, horror, supernatural fan. And I think that ties in a little bit with it. I mean, I was 3 years old watching Sven and Svengoolie and Creature Features and The Exorcist and all that stuff. So I don't know. But yes. So
I believe that it makes you drawn to it for a reason. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. All that freaky stuff. I mean, I remember being like in second grade and I drew like 2 red dots on my neck because I was bitten by a vampire. So just weird crap like that. But as far as like when things kind of started, I was interested in tarot cards. And the reason was I had a friend whose friend was a lot older than us, like 20, was a tarot card reader. And she was pretty good. So we went and she read our cards and we became friends and we would go over there quite often. And eventually she would kind of teach us how to read tarot cards. Now this is the original tarot cards, the Rider-Waite, which even though I've taken a long class on it, I still am completely confused by it. So that's kind of where it began for me. So that's when I was like 18, 20 years old. And then when I got divorced the first time, the only time, I went to a psychic to see when we split up, just to see what was going to happen. And she was, with her tarot cards telling me exactly 2 months from today, he's going to come back. He's going to want to go to counseling. And that's exactly what happened. So it kind of sparked my interest somewhat. And I kind of played with tarot cards at home and that sort of thing. And then when I moved, I should say, my son and I, oldest, moved from Chicago to the suburbs. There was a metaphysical shop in town that did classes. So I took one on tarot cards. Again, I didn't really resonate too much with the Rider-Waite deck. And then there was also Reiki classes. And I took Reiki 1 just because I thought, oh, this is interesting. So anything metaphysical related, I would take. If they had a meditation there, I would go, whatever. So I kind of dabbled in it that way. And then I would say, as far as like really getting into it, would be after my mom died. So that's 2004. And up till that point, again, it was just more for like personal stuff, reading my own cards or whatever, 5 million different decks that I own. When she died, I'm like, well, what the hell? Where'd she go? I guess she's just not around anymore. And it really, I lost my faith in God and my religion, which is I was born and raised Catholic and went to all girls Catholic schools.
Oh, wow.
So,
it's actually really common with people in this field is the Catholic or, that kind of upbringing.
And I found out now that at this point, you can still be a Catholic and go to church on Sunday and be a psychic medium. So it's
Absolutely.
not, it's not the devil's work as some people might think. So I started watching Lisa Williams. She had her show from the UK. And for the life of me, I can't remember what the name of it was, but she had her own show, like the Long Island Medium and all of them. And I watched it for a
Which is
couple
so
years.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's so crazy that because Damien, her and I both went to Lisa Williams
Yeah.
at different times.
Yeah. And I sent in a thing saying that I wanted to be read by her. You know, of course, it's like, it's going to take 500 years or there's 1,000 people ahead of you. But they actually messaged me back and told me to send in a tape. So you have to like tell your story about why you want a reading. So I did that. And interestingly enough, I believe it was when Lisa Williams just started doing her mediumship teaching. I got a message back from a lady that it wasn't Lisa Williams at first, just saying that she would like to ask you a few questions and, you know, interview you. And make a long story short, she said, I think you'd be great for my mediumship class. The other lady that I also conversed with, which was one of Lisa Williams' best friends, not sure if they still are, but she was where I got all my Reiki training from going forward. So level 2, master and teacher. And so, yeah, I flew to Texas. I did, at that time, it was only a 3-day course with Lisa Williams. And it was just kind of wild and blew my mind. And as I know I've told you before, Erica, it's, and Damien too, you know, once you become aware of shit that, or sorry, I swore.
Oh, you're
Aware
fine.
of stuff, aware of things that, you know, going on, energy and spirit world, you know, it became a huge, huge interest of mine. So that was kind of that. So I came home, I was doing Reiki out of my house. I was doing like reading parties for friends, and the tarot cards, the only ones that I use, and this might be a good plug for him, is John Holland's Psychic Oracle cards. I'm on like my 5th deck of his. Those are the only cards I use. Would I call myself like a tarot reader? Yes and no, because like I said, I don't read traditional tarot, the cups and the, I was gonna say the cups and the saucers, the cups
Yeah.
and the and all that stuff. I strictly go by his deck, and I really use it just to confirm what I'm already getting. So it's really a divination tool for me, using his cards. But I mean, I could talk forever about. So from there, I just took, you know, was doing readings for friends and Reiki out of my house, and then I wanted to get started online, and that's when I came in contact with a lady named Sherry, and she's Sherry 22. She's a fertility psychic. She's called the baby psychic. So if you Google the baby psychic, she will come up. And she got me all the online stuff because, you know, I'm going to be 50 soon, and I didn't know anything technology related. I was just on Facebook. So that's probably 2009 we're talking, 2008, 2009. And she's the one that got me going doing readings. And oddly enough, they were mostly 99% fertility. And I would say at that point, that's when my psychic gift really flourished. Yeah. I would say the mediumship probably came a few years later. Because if you think about it, I don't know, it's just, for me at least, being psychic and medium, they're totally different levels of vibration.
Absolutely.
You know, where you're at when you're reading. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I think, you know, I think they say that, you know, psychic can become a medium. Or wait, all mediums are psychic, but not all psychics are mediums. So I do believe that you do have to develop and work at it. So when I say, you know, it didn't come natural to me, it didn't. I took classes and just practiced on my own and developed my own stuff. So
yeah,
I don't have any woo-woo
that's
stories.
interesting. What did you say, Damien?
Do you prefer the mediumship, or do you prefer the psychic, or does it not really?
You know, I'm actually beginning to think, I don't know if they ever have, they should make this term. I almost think I'm like I know Erica teaches about like hybrid readings. I think I'm almost like a hybrid psychic, because when I do psychic readings, if I have my cards out, you know, because people, when they come to you for a reading, some demand you use tarot cards. So you get them out and you use them. Again, do I like look at the cards and strictly read the cards? No, I use my intuition as well and my clairs to do the reading. But I swear it's like hybrid. So I'm vibrating at the medium level still while doing the psychic reading. And yeah, I just think, I don't think I can be just one.
Absolutely. Just to tag on with what you were saying. So that's what I learned from Lisa Williams, was the to basically open yourself up as a medium. And then whenever you're switching back and forth with psychic, it makes the information flow a lot easier.
Yeah.
And it's not reading as physical. So have you noticed, and I kind of wanted to open this up for people who go and get readings that don't necessarily do readings also, but have you ever noticed, like, when you go to some readers that are they read like more like I don't want to say like doom and gloom, but kind of, they read like, oh, you know, your cat's gonna die and all of this more like heavier stuff, you know. Sometimes those readers, I feel like the vibration that they're coming from, I think is lower. Like, they're not that they are low vibration, but they read at that lower vibration and in those lower chakras. So if you were to go to one of those kind of readers, that might really turn you off for psychics, you know, and not all psychics are like that. So one thing that I really love that you taught me was, you know, reading through our guides, is reading with our spirit guides to get that higher vibrational overall message.
Right.
So
You're right. And that's another thing too. I didn't learn about guides until, you know, there's another person I can credit, and I haven't spoken to her in years, but her name was Coral. And I know Erica knows the story about, I was talking to her, I'm like, well, yeah, there's been this guy in my closet and he's wearing like a uniform from the Navy. And she's like, well, did you ever ask him why he's here? I'm like, no, you know, I didn't think of those things. I didn't have that awareness like I was talking about before. But she also was like, you know, you have this woman standing behind you. I'm like, I do? Is it my mom? You know, I was hoping it was my mom. She's like, no, it's a guide. I'm like, well, what's that? So mind you, I've been doing psychic readings all this time, you know, reading tarot cards, my tarot cards and readings, and never knowing what a spirit guide was. So, you know, that's where I kind of maybe, and I'm sure there's many psychics like myself that learn the same way, but it's kind of like I learned everything backwards. It's like, oh, spirit guides, okay, I can add that in. Oh, this, okay, I can add that in. And, you know, these are all definitely, guides are so underutilized, I think. And sometimes I do it myself where it's like, okay, yeah, bring in your guides. But yes, guides are huge.
Absolutely.
And now I have a whole team because I'm a shaman, but before it was just one. Her name's Annabelle, my main guide. Yeah, but now, you know, we have a whole team of them.
It's very underrated. It's very underrated practice with the guide, you know. And now with your shamanism, how can you say that that's helped out your medium and psychic abilities?
I would say, again, it's the whole, and I keep saying this word, but it's the whole awareness, the whole having that awareness of energy, how energy works, you know, as far as like my psychic readings, making them better, stronger, making the messages better, pushing out your aura, making our chakras bigger, using our bands, you know, all it does is, at least for me, since I've added on, became a shaman, I would say the information comes quicker. So if I were to sit down and get ready to read you, it would be like, okay, I'm grounded and all that stuff that we do as a shaman, you know, to prepare. And then it's like, bam, it just starts coming. So I don't have to wait for my guide.
I feel like I'm pulling.
Yeah, you don't have to wait for that. It just happens. It's like automatic. Because we're so much, our energy is so huge. So
yeah, I think we resonate pretty high, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something that Lisa taught me, was that, you know, whenever you're already naturally residing at that higher vibration, which as shamans, since we work so hard on our vibration is actually going to be sitting at a much higher frequency. So whenever you're resting up there, I mean, that's where they are. You know what I mean? That's where your guides are. That's where, you know, the consciousness, they're at that higher vibration. So if you're already there, it's like, oh, hey guys, you know, there's no big like door and pull. Before I took shaman, that's what I was kind of like. I kind of felt like at times, if I didn't really work very hard on pushing my vibration upwards, I kind of felt like I was pulling information. And I think that's where a lot of people starting out with psychic or medium really get frustrated, like especially with students. And you know what I'm talking about. The students are like, I don't see anything. I feel like, okay, I see a car. 5 minutes go by. I see an R, you know? So, but if you work on that vibration and getting it up higher, then, you know, you don't have to worry about all that. It just comes more natural.
I was the same way when I first started. I was always like, it's so difficult trying to, do it. And then once it opens up, now I'm just like, hey, can I just sit here and play PlayStation for a minute? Just,
Yeah.
Right.
Let me eat my
They're whether you want it or not.
spirits. I don't want to talk to spirits right now or anything. Let me be normal for a second.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
So-
Erica, when we were in Ocean City and we went to that psychic lady, it's something too that I don't want to say I've become pickier about who reads me, because I sense their energy and their vibration right away. And I know I told you when that lady read me, like you were saying earlier before about the doom and gloom, and a lot of those psychics just read the information they're getting from the cards. They don't even probably connect or raise their vibration. Who knows what their level is, but you can
They
totally
don't.
tell.
And they read from the solar plexus below.
Yes.
So when they're reading from those lower frequencies, naturally that's a lower vibration.
Right.
And a lot of times they'll say, can I hold your hand? And I notice that with a lot of times with those kind of readers that want that physical contact, it's because they want to come within your aura and they don't know how else to do it except for be physically in your aura by touching your hand.
Right. And, again, like you said, with students as well, they get frustrated. And that's where then their ego steps in. And that's another huge thing with psychic readings, is your own ego, because that can really just mess things up.
Yeah.
And it still happens, 10 years later, it still happens to me. So,
I use your logical mind and your ego, which doesn't fit in at all.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
I'm very and logical. So it's been a battle for sure.
Yeah, I always use that example of like someone comes to me for a relationship reading, right? For a psychic relationship reading. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm seeing this past of this man who constantly cheats and cheats and cheats. I'm just, no, sorry, Davey, I'm not being sexist. But Sam with the, because it could be the other way around. But say I have this woman who comes to me and her boyfriend is constantly cheating and she's like, okay, will he change? My ego says, no, leave his motherfucking ass. he ain't gonna change. He ain't showing no signs of change, whatever. You need to get out of there. But my guides might say, okay, you know what? There's a lesson that she has not learned yet, which is about self-worth, which is about, what is the higher vibrational overall message? What lessons has she not learned to be able to let this person go, right? So I think that, look for the readers that look on that aspect, that don't get down at that vibration of, you know what, he's cheating on you. You know what, you should just dump him and get out of there and go to this next person. Like, don't do that. What is the high vibrational message? What is this person supposed to heal from? Sorry, go ahead.
That's a good point, because I think what people tend to not understand or have not known or just forget is that I think the only reason to have these gifts as a shaman or a medium or a psychic is to help people. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I had a lower vibrational psychic, and I read their profile, and they're like, I just cut right through the bullshit and this, that, and the other. And I was like, I started off and I was talking about chakras, and they're like, look, mate, chakras are bullshit. And I was like, I literally just clicked. I'm like, all right.
Gotta go.
I'm not even going to go any further. But yeah, there are. And also another thing that me and you have discussed before was people getting into these things like the tarot readers and stuff like that. And I've even seen it on YouTube we were talking about before, where they start getting these negative attachments to them. And that has a lot to do with more shamanism aspect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some people don't like to go there, but we're shamans, so we always go there.
You can go there.
Like, what they got going on around there?
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. And I've had readings from people, and before I was a shaman, that even back then I could sense, yeah, man, there's something wrong with it's like dark energy.
Something's off. Yeah. And that's exactly how I'll feel. Is before I could recognize it, I'd be like, oh, I don't know why I just don't really want to talk to that person. And now as a shaman, I'm like, well, wait a minute, let me see why I don't want to talk to that person. Let me see what else is going on there.
Well, you can do something about it as a shaman.
Exactly. We can help them now. Before I avoided because I couldn't help them. It's like, what am I going to do?
It's all about energy with us. It's all about, I think the main thing of a shaman is transmutating energies, which it's like me personally, I'm not a practitioner, and I'm very new to it. So I don't actively do anything. Well, I don't really have to. So I basically transmutate myself all day because I'm
you're just transmuting your environment all day long.
All day long. I don't
and dumping.
Since I'm not a practitioner, I'm just soaking it all in from everywhere, and I'm just like, I just transmutate myself instead of transmutating someone specifically.
Exactly.
You know, another thing I was just thinking about too, like the perception of psychics. Like we were talking about like the doom and gloom and their vibration might be low or whatever. But have you seen, even on your own posts, when you're offering, psychic reading or whatever, and somebody will come on there and be a smartass and say, "Oh, well, give me the lottery numbers." That's not what a psychic does, because don't you think that we would say this number, we would be winning the lotto if we knew that. So
exactly.
I got kind of remembered that from when you were talking about giving like intuitive guidance. And I don't want to call us mini therapists, but I think it's just as a psychic and medium, but we're talking about psychic, it's just more of our job to like I always tell people, if I say or see that you're going to wear a blue dress to work tomorrow, and you get up in the morning and you look at the blue dress and you're like, you know what? She said I was going to wear that, but I'm going to wear the red one. Well, the red one was the one you're supposed to wear. Does that mean I was wrong? No, but I gave you that intuitive guidance, and then you made your own decision, that whole free will thing. But no, psychics, if they say they can give you lottery numbers, and I'm sure there's psychics out there that probably do. And I think it kind of gives what we're talking about, kind of gives us kind of a little bit of a bad name, because
it is, because it's not supposed to be. I don't, like Damien said earlier, it's not meant for that. I feel like it's, when you said the comment about almost being like a therapist, I've been told many times from people, they're like, can I come to you once a month? And I'm like, I really could try to say, if you want to come, make it be like a reason, you know what I mean? Don't, I don't want to take advantage of somebody. I think that's unethical. But, but they say to me, this is better than therapy, because it's about it's about that higher vibrational message. Like, what's going to put me on my path? What, I'm stuck. Yeah. That's really what it is. We get people that are stuck in front of us.
Now, have
We're just giving them, what was that?
Have you noticed, like, this is what I've always done. I always do like self-therapy, like my entire life. You know what I mean? And it's like, it kind of worked into like, one of the things I do, which I didn't notice before that I was told, is like, clear people vocally. This is one thing that we do as shamans, is like when you start pulling, like, it's like, I know you have something to say, you know what I mean? I need to get it out of you. And then once I get it out of you, now it's in me and it's cleared out of you, and now I can transmutate it. But I noticed that my entire life, you talk about the therapy stuff, like I've always been like self-aware, even if I haven't done the right decision or not. It's always been in my mind, but I've always, inside my head, have always been going back and forth about everything, all the time, constantly trying to self-improve and stuff like that. If I did it or not was my own choice.
Exactly. And that's where a free will comes in.
With the psychic readings too, is I think a lot of people go to psychic readings. Some might be like curious, but a lot of it's kind of out of desperation too. Like there's something that like they're kind of lost. And they really want to know something. And my whole take on psychic readings is everybody, it's not a cookie cutter thing. Everybody's unique and different, and everybody has their own perspective and maybe a different level of perceptions and stuff like that. And you can like take it as 100% fact, or you can take that message as how to like move forward in a better direction with your life, with this newfound information, and then there's some people who are just completely obsessed, who are just like, too many readings.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, back when I started and I was doing fertility,
I was just going to ask you about that, fertility.
How many women want to know when they're going to have a baby?
To me, it's hard.
It's difficult because those are the women that are desperate. Some are, when they're having fertility issues and they can't get pregnant.
And it's hard as a psychic because we want it for them. We want to be on your team, but we also have to remember we're just a channel. We're just a channel. We are not living your situation. So for me, fertility readings, we've had this conversation before. Suzanne is like really excellent with fertility readings. For me, I'm like, if I get the information, I'll get it, but I don't like, I don't really particularly, it's not that I don't like it, but it puts me in a position where I feel uncomfortable and I'm like, I really want you to have a baby, but this is what
You
I'm
don't want to be
seeing.
wrong. You don't want to be wrong too. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And,
exactly. That's what I mean. I would never want to give someone false hope,
Mhm.
or something like that.
there's so many variables because, for me, when I do a fertility reading, like somebody wants to know the month and the gender, I give them a month and a gender, but my readings, and you see with time, as you do more and more readings, my readings are usually good for a year. So like I say, well, in May, you're going to conceive or find out that you're pregnant, or you can give birth. So my point is you have to kind of, because if you say, okay, you're going to get pregnant in the second week of May, and there's psychics that do that. And then if it doesn't happen, then, when that person wants another reading and another reading and another reading. So that's,
And it almost creates a manifest a block, in my opinion, whenever that happens.
yes, because
It
then
could
that person
totally
is
block it.
stuck on May. It has to be the second week of May. If it doesn't happen, there's something wrong with me, or they totally take it out on you, which, happens a
Yeah.
lot as well. But that's the other thing too, before shamanism, you know, and energy, working with energy, like doing fertility readings, I would connect with their energy. And then, I could look at them intuitively and medically because of my nursing background, and I could see if they're having issues or maybe why they weren't getting pregnant. So I do a lot of that, and still do a lot of that. But, the big question that I get a lot now is, well, will you be able to see if I'm not going to have a baby, if I'm not going to have children? Well, that's a difficult one to answer because what I say back to them is, well, there's other ways to have a child. You can adopt, you can do IVF.
Exactly. That's exactly what I tell them.
You get sperm donors. There's so many things. You can have a surrogate. So, if I sense a child energy with you, and they say, well, I'm sterile or my husband has no sperm, well, then that child's probably going to come some other way. People
Exactly.
don't, they
Like for
just want
me,
the
like my
experience.
oldest is my brother, but he is 100% my child.
Right, right. So I'm sure maybe somewhere along the way you've had energy saying, oh, I see you have a son, that, they pick up on that energy for
Exactly.
Wally.
So
But,
that brings
yeah.
me to something else I wanted to say too, is and this is for people who read also. I think this is something I learned that I thought was pretty interesting, is that if you read at the lower chakras, right, you just read like more of like your vibrations lower, you read at the lower vibration. What you can actually do is pick up on people's fears and what someone that you're reading is afraid of, what they want. And that is more telepathy. I
Yeah.
think more telepathy than it is actually reading psychically. So to look at future stuff, if you're going to a reader who has the experience of just reading in that way, they're going to be hitting the nail on the head with, oh
Yep.
yeah, I feel this, I know this, I know I feel this way, and I'm scared of this, right? But their future prediction, they'll be like, but they said this would happen, this never happened, right? And I think it's because that reader maybe doesn't understand, doesn't know that, if you read at that higher, like you push your aura outwards and you work on your own vibration and you read them at that higher vibration, those above chakras, you're actually going to get guided advice from their guides, your guides. And that's whenever you're going to get those timelines that actually happen. And I always see timelines also as multiple paths. Like I'll say to a person, if you stay on this path, this is what I see happening. However, there's this option over here that you could take. There's like this door number 2. I like options.
Yeah.
I'm a Taurus. And I'm like, you can't tell me it's just one thing. I need to know that there's multiple directions here.
You're always like reading my mind, because exactly what I was talking about is like what people need to understand with readings and stuff like that is we live in multiple timelines and we have free will. It could change anytime now, and then manifesting comes in part of it. I mean, if you're in desperation
and choices.
Yeah.
If someone chooses to stay with somebody that's not good for them,
Mm-hmm.
and their lesson is to let go of that person, that timeline's going to look like not like shit, but that timeline's going to stay. And that exactly.
Yeah.
But if they decide to leave the person, then you might see that door number 2. That's free will. And like what Damien's saying, that's that alternate timeline essentially. That's like, hey, I let this person go, this really great person's going to come in my life, but I have to make that choice. And that's where free will comes in.
I
Let me
think
ask this.
that's weird.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. That's it. I think it's weird because honestly, I think that multi-dimensional. I think we live all the timelines at the same time, which is weird. You
Yeah,
know?
I would agree with
Absolutely.
that. And then
Absolutely.
have you ever run into when you're doing a psychic reading, you give them those options like, well, if you stay with him, it's going to continue to be worse, blah, blah, blah. If you break up with him or get a divorce, then blah, blah, blah. And then they say, but what do you think is going to happen?
I know.
And that's when, for me, ego does step in, just because, again, like you said before, you want to tell him, why are you with him? He hits you, he beats you up, he doesn't have whatever it is, why would you want to stay? He said, that's hard because ego immediately steps in because you want to tell them, run, run,
Yeah.
run.
But as a reader, you have to say, like, I'm not living your life.
Right.
All I can do is tell you what your spirit guides are telling you,
Yes.
but we have free will here.
Right. And I just think, and that's why that I go back to the beginning, that whole like hybrid psychic reading thing, because to me, that's not, and I don't know how everybody else views like a psychic, but to somebody that's maybe listening today that is like, what's a psychic? They may think of it as, oh, they're, they read tarot cards. That's usually what people will think.
Yeah.
And that's so cut and dry. But as you can see from everything we're talking about, it's more complex. It's just, again, intuitive guidance. It's not saying in 6 months you're going to buy a car, in 2 years you're going to buy a house, 3 years you're going to get married, and then you're going to have 2 kids. That it's so much different than that. And that's where I take pride in how I do my psychic readings, because it's not what a lot of people would call typical. Because I even still get people like, well, aren't you going to get out your cards? Well, no.
No.
So,
Yeah.
it's just people's perception. But yes.
No, I agree. I think that's how I am too. I get asked a lot, like, do you use tarot cards? Do you use angel cards and stuff like that? I'm like, no, because for me, how I receive information is very similar to how I receive mediumship information.
Yep.
So, but I'm receiving it from a guide as opposed to someone's grandma.
Right. Right. Very true.
I like mediumship as opposed to psychic, even though it's like two totally different things. It's because it's like it seems like mediumship. I like that the most out of any kind of practice, because it's like I don't really have to do anything. I kind of just like let go, and then the spirit comes in and just tells the story.
Tells their story.
They tell the story, and I just like have it. I just perceive it and have it come out of my mouth. You know what I mean? Just tell them what I see.
Right.
And I like the mediumship connection too, just because the vibration, and when they come through, it makes me feel like really hyper afterwards.
Yeah.
But if you connect as a psychic in the way that we're talking about, honestly, you'll be connecting at a guide level, and whenever you get those timelines, you're going to hit that same kind of buzz, because that frequency of those guides are even higher than the spirits. Does that make sense?
And for people who don't know, I guess if you don't mind, I can explain it real quick.
Definitely.
Chakra system. So of course you have like your 7 main chakras. You have your root, and then your sacral, and then your solar plexus, and then you go to the heart, and that's like the bridge.
Yep.
And that's the bridge to more of like when you start getting into the known or unknown, or the guide, more the guide realm, you know what I mean? And then you go up to the throat, then you have the third eye, then you have the crown. Is essentially how some readers read like that. That's the way that I've read until I still read like that. I still read in like a hybrid way, because I read the way that Suzanne, the way that you taught Erica how to do the guides and stuff. That to me, that is so much more like that, you know what I mean? But when I read the other way, and of course, like you said, reality is like the solar plexus, the gut, and below, and then you get more, and then when you go hit the heart and go to the bridge, that's when you get the known and unknowns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Start talking to guides.
Because those bottom chakras are considered like the physical, like the past, present, right? All the way up to that.
With the root, when
exactly. And then once you hit that heart and above, this is where you're getting more of like future timelines and things like that. That's if you're a reader that reads through the aura and reads the chakras that way. But like you said with Suzanne, she taught, and this is how Lisa Williams teaches too. Lisa Williams teaches to do past, present, and then you get future timelines from spirit guides. So, and that's kind of so the way that I read is it's just kind of a mixture of all of them. I actually very rarely read through the aura, just because to me it's like trying to teach an old dog new tricks. Like I'll take some parts of it, but it actually makes me think. And when I have to think during this, it throws me all off.
It takes me a lot longer. It takes me a lot longer to do it, like, because, there's like a checklist. And
Exactly. And it shouldn't be like that.
Right.
As long as you can hit that category, like relationship, and then get past and present, and then sometimes people don't even do that. If people just want to ask you a direct question, when someone does that, I know Suzanne's the same way. We use all of our clairs when we do that. But most of it honestly is through clear cognizance, like that knowing feeling. So if someone asks me a question, I'll get that knowing feeling, and I'll be like blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, I know this, I see this, I feel this, and that information just comes. But for people who are not like trained in doing all of this, it's someone that's listening is like, wow, I think I do this. You do this. It's actually extremely common. One perfect example, I think, of intuition is, you think about somebody and they call you. That's your clear cognizance working, right?
Yep.
That's you intuitively already knowing. Or, oh, I don't know why I'm just not thinking, and all of a sudden you take this left turn while you're driving and like, oh shit, I forgot I was supposed to take a left turn here, but I did anyways. That's because your gut knows what you're doing, your clear cognizance knows what you're doing, right? But we just took that a step further and decided to work with that and stretch those muscles that we all have,
there is a benefit to reading through the aura too, because like when I would do it is, you start physically first. You start at the root, and you could like, I'm very clairsentient, so I can like physically feel your ailments.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Yes.
Like if your elbow hurts, my elbow hurts.
Yes.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you can kind of get, and then the emotional one's the most difficult one for me when you move up a little bit, but you can start getting that. And then, it actually kind of goes into mediumship. Something else I learned doing mediumship is connecting the heart chakra through mediumship, which when people start getting very emotional when they pick up on a particular loved one, and then you start feeling like, oh, like it's weird. When I started learning it too, it's like when you would feel certain ways, like I guess I would be naturally empathic my whole life. And then I didn't realize that a lot of the stuff wasn't from me. And now I feel it, and it's a weird feeling because it's like, you feel that feeling, but there's a separation. It's like, I know this feeling, but I know it's not mine.
Right. It's not yours. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Excellent.
Very true.
Well, I know you have to probably get ready to go, Suze, because you have like 10 more minutes, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. You have to cut that out, Dave. I'm sorry. I suck.
That's fine.
You're awesome.
He will.
He will. Then I can be like, I'm just kidding.
It may be good.
But I wanted to make sure I asked you one more question before we go too. So I wanted to ask you, if you have anybody that's out there listening to us that is interested in doing readings and understanding more about themselves, what kind of advice would you have for them?
That they want to become a practitioner themselves.
Exactly.
Yes.
Or even just learn about it themselves.
Right. For me now, I can say, if I knew then what I know now, and again, there's no right or wrong way to develop your gifts. I don't think you kind of have to go with your own flow, but I would definitely say spiritual hygiene for sure. Definitely getting to know your spirit guides for sure. And the other thing I know we could talk for another hour about is some shadow work.
Yes.
I've seen it in my students. I had a student who somebody close to her died, and for 2 weeks we made no progress whatsoever because she really just needed to process. And so that kind of thing, and I've not turned people away from teaching, but it's almost as though like they're going through a divorce and they're living out of their car, but they want me to teach them how to be a psychic. It's like, do you really think now's the best time for that? Yeah. So I think the 3 things would be like spiritual hygiene, getting to know your spirit guides, through meditation, and then the shadow work and beginning to realize about raising your own vibration, I think is really key. Not to say that after you do those things that you'll learn quicker and faster, but maybe, probably, I think so. At least you'll have a tiny bit of understanding about energy and about what your own gifts are already in the works. So I think it just gives you a lot of insight going into it, but I'm sure, like I said, there's people out there that click on something on Facebook, learn to be a psychic, click, and they've done nothing of that, and they do just fine. But I'm sure somewhere in there they've learned the stuff I've mentioned. So
Yeah, that's an excellent point. There's so many people out there that are self-taught and just figure it out on their own, and that's totally fine.
I mean, look at us. We still do all those things.
Absolutely. And it's trial and error.
Shadow work, right? Exactly.
Well, we have
So,
guides
And that's
too. That's what they're here
what
for.
did you say?
That's why we have guides. That's what they're here for. If we learn to, quiet ourselves down and listen, and just surrender, they have all the answers.
yep.
Yeah. Or even if another good thing too that I think is, like, if you are someone who has no that you have these gifts, these clairs and everything, but you have no idea like how to channel it anywhere, it's to just sit and, like, a lot of people call it like sitting in the power, just going from within and pushing your aura outwards and just leaving yourself open to connect.
Yes.
Right? Just open yourself up, try to clear your mind for 15 minutes a day and see if you start seeing or feeling or hearing.
Yep.
And just let it develop slowly, and then, decide if this is something that you want to learn more on.
Right.
What's interesting, and I know that we've talked about this too, is that a lot of the people that I have as students, they aren't necessarily coming to me to learn this because they want to be practitioners.
Right.
They want to do it because they want to know about themselves. They want to know their own self-awareness and what their capabilities are and understand themselves and the higher power and all of that stuff. So,
right. I think one out of three. So what's that? A third or whatever that math problem is, that is actually going to, like, maybe charge and do readings. The rest it's all for them. It's just about self-growth and knowing they have these gifts and they want to develop them. And it's, it's like almost, you can't compare it to going
therapeutic for
on a diet
yourself.
or exercising, but it's, it's for your own well-being as well. So yeah, it's very
Exactly.
true.
I can say that, looking back when I very first started, I wasn't like, oh, I want to be a practitioner. I was like, if I did anything, I would like to just practice mediumship readings. I loved the reaction that I saw in the beginning when I got validation for somebody who missed someone so much. Like, that's where I started. And the psychic, if you remember, when me and you first started talking, I was like, I don't really know. Lisa says that we're all psychic, but I don't really do psychic. And Suzanne's like, okay, just take a deep breath, ask your guides this question and tell me exactly what did you hear. And then it started from there. And I was like, that's it.
Right. It's true. It's true. Listen to those guides. They're important, I tell you.
It
is.
I don't know if I would be a practitioner. I'm just like tripping and falling and stumbling through the whole.
But we all do. We all do, Damien. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I think you will. I just think it's like all of us. It takes time.
Well, my whole thing was the self-healing.
Oh, yeah. That's what I mean. Yes.
People like us, like shamans, are healers. That's what we do. For me, that's first and foremost. For me, mediumship, I think, is like second. If I practice anything, it'd probably be mediumship. You know what I mean? And for me, the whole process, like you said, shadow work and everything, like I just kind of, my story. It was in the intro to our channel. I kind of just fell into it. It was meant to be and came out so much better after it. And I think that like what you're saying, when the steps come into, if you want to do this, those traumas and that shadow is weighing you down. That's what you need to process, because to do this kind of work, you kind of need to be energetically sound. You know what I mean? And that is a constant work in progress every day to be that way. You know what I mean? Like,
and I'm sure
spiritual hygiene.
Yes. I'm sure they're
massive.
They have their little shops that are like, oh, I don't want to go into work today. They think of it as like work, a job. I got to go in, I'm going to read whoever comes in. Whereas, if I don't feel good or something's going on in my personal life or something I'm dealing with shadow work and I have a reading to do, sometimes I reschedule them. And because I don't want to give a reading if it's not going to be good.
100%. Exactly. If you're not in the right place.
I want to be done. And, no.
Well, and that just really quick, that brings up a really good point that I was going to say earlier whenever you said spiritual hygiene. There's a lot of practitioners out there that will do readings like 1 or 2 days a week and then be shot for the rest of the week. Like feel like shit, be tired, be drained. I remember doing galleries in the beginning or big group readings. And I was down for like a week after that. Like it sucked. And then I learned about spiritual hygiene, and I was like, oh shit, my battery is flipped right back up. I just had to get that energy out of my aura. I
We
just had to
will
learn how to filter it.
explain everything. Like we definitely need to do an episode soon explaining exactly what spiritual hygiene is and what to do and how to do it, because people like us, especially shamans, who absorb a lot of energy, especially like negative energies and stuff like that. Like, I mean, I'm spraying myself down with stuff that I make myself like all day.
Yeah, I got some right here. I got my aura spray in me.
Yep, spraying that water down all day. I mean, rinse and repeat.
Yep. Put some Mars water in there.
Yeah. Exactly. It's very,
So, well, I know you got to go. Thank you so much for spending time with us. We absolutely love you. And we'd love to have you back on again.